What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is obviously the Chelsea versus Swansea game. 3-1, not a bad result. But before the game, there was a little bit of concern going into it, mainly because you look at our past two games. Burnley struggled to create chances, tied 1-1, and then Wolves, we struggled to finish our chances and eked out a 2-0 win. So there was a little bit of concern coming in because Swansea are looking better. Paul Clement, Claude Makelele, they've done a good job of bringing them from a team that was definitely going to get relegated to now a team that looks like a mid-table side. So yeah, it's a little concerning. Them coming in a good run of form, us not in a bad run of form, but just not as good as we were, earlier on. So sure enough, throughout the game today, just struggling to create chances. Whenever we were creating chances, we struggled to finish them. And it wasn't until we were up 3-1 that I finally felt safe again. So, yeah, there were certain things here and there, and most of it was just kind of individuals that I think contributed to that. But before we talk about individuals, let's talk about the goals. First one kind of put me at ease at first before everything else happened. But it was such a well-worked goal. Pedro plays the ball in, Fabregas takes it off of Costa's foot and then finishes it himself. And it felt so easy and simple that I'm just like, okay, so we're moving the ball well, we're creating good chances, we finished that one, looks good. But then the half goes on, our chances start dying out, and then those chances that we are creating, we're not really putting the finishing touch on them, so now I'm kind of getting a little concerned, and then sure enough, right before halftime, referee gives a foul. Now, was it a foul? It looked like Conte got the ball and won it cleanly. Maybe got the man after the fact, but it didn't look like a foul to me. Then the ball comes in. Llorente looked like he was possibly offside, so yeah, maybe some refereeing decisions that could have gone a bit better, but you look at the lack of organization in defense. Some people are going to say, oh, well, Moses didn't track him. Why is Moses on their tall center forward that is going to look for a header? Why isn't one of our defenders on the center forward? So there was a lack of organization back there that is kind of concerning, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But then we come back in second half, and it's still struggling to create chances, still struggling to finish any chances that we do create. And then finally we get lucky with Fabregas up to Pedro. Pedro has a shot. Fabianski, it's one of those awkward ones where it skips right up under his hand and pops in. So lucky goal, but it puts us ahead. And then Hazard, nice little bit of work, finds Costa, who nice little side volley in, and puts the game to rest. So, the three goals of ours, one was lucky, but the other two were well created, well finished. So overall, I think the goals were really good today. But on to the individuals, because like I said, there were some worrying signs today. First of all, Courtois in goal, kind of a bystander. So I can't really say much about him today. On the goal, maybe could have done better. Maybe it's one of those where the forward has a free header, so I can't criticize him too much because why is the forward having a free header? He has plenty of time to pick his spot, and it's pretty much one-on-one. I mean, he was only like 8 yards out, I think. So it's very difficult to make a reaction save like that. So it's hard. He did get a hand to it, so it's hard to really criticize him for that. But the rest of the time didn't really have anything to do. The defense. This is where it's less the individuals. It's more just overall. Our defense has not come under a lot of criticism this year, and a part of that has been because they've been so good. But you look at, okay, over that 13-game winning streak, yeah, they only conceded like 2. Over the past, what has it been? Like 5 or 6 games? So starting from the Tottenham loss, they conceded 2 in that. They conceded 1 against Arsenal, they conceded 1 against Liverpool, conceded 1 against Burnley, and now conceded 1 against Swansea. So that's 6 goals that they've conceded. That's a lot in such a short amount of time. That's like 1 goal per game. That's not good enough, especially from a defense that managed to keep, what was it, like 6 or 7 clean sheets in a row. Something started to change, and I think you really look at some of the decisions being made, some of the mistakes being made, you can kind of pinpoint where the issues are coming from. Azpilicueta, for me, had an average game, but didn't make any mistakes. There was the one where Sigurdsson beat him, and then there was another one where Sigurdsson was in behind Moses and it was one-on-one, flicked it up into his arm, and thankfully the referee gave him the benefit of the doubt. But overall, solid, does very well winning the ball, does very well creating stuff going forward. David Luiz didn't really have as much of an impact on the game as I'd like. There are too many times where it feels like they're getting the ball forward and David Luiz should be stepping in to sort of stop the flow of play, but instead he's backing off with the rest of the defense. And that's not what he's been doing. He's been the one that's been stepping out, almost like a stopper, stepping out there to stop any sort of possible counterattack, while the other two, Cahill and Spilicueta, are stepping in behind as the cover. That didn't happen today. And then on top of that, going forward, he didn't really get forward that often, which is what he's been doing very well all season, creating stuff going forward, that long ball. He didn't do a whole lot of that today, so that was kind of worrying. But Cahill, it feels like he's lost at times. It feels like he gets lost tracking certain players when he should be tracking others. And it's almost like he doesn't really read the play very well anymore, and it's starting to show. So you look at those two, you look at the mistakes Cahill's making, you look at the mistakes that David Luiz is making, that's got to change, because that's the reason we've started to give up goals. Cahill's not organizing back on that free kick, he gives up the goal. The lack of challenge that Cahill puts in last week, and then Matic puts in a bad challenge, gives away a free kick, Burnley scores a goal off of it. So there are issues. There are a lot of issues back there that I think need to be addressed. Either you got to replace him, or you've got to get him to stop making those same mistakes, because it's becoming an issue. It's becoming something that it's causing games like this against Swansea, where it should be a comfortable win. It should be like we're not worried. We're not giving up stupid chances. All of a sudden, we're giving up some chances. They're starting to have a lot of possession of the ball. And it's because of mistakes that Cahill's making, that David Luiz isn't making. And, to be honest, that Marcos Alonso is making. I mean, honestly, he used to be very effective on that left wing-back role. Now, all of a sudden, not only is he still not as effective on defense as he should be, but also getting forward now, he's not creating as much. He's getting into the right spaces, but on the ball, his crosses have been terrible, or he's giving away the ball, or his passes are going awry. So, honestly, you look at that, and it's mainly down one side. Alonso, Cahill, and then David Luiz with some issues. Those three are kind of causing a lot of problems for us in the back. And the reason I have such a big problem with this is Zuma's back from injury. We brought Ake back. Why is this still an issue? Why are we still struggling with problems? Why are we still struggling with defensive problems? We brought Ake back, who was probably one of the hardest working defenders I've ever seen at Bournemouth. Probably won them a lot of games as well. We're not utilizing him. He can play left back, he can play center back. Why not use him? Give him something to do. Put him on the field, give him a chance. He's been given chances in the FA Cup, but guess what? That's the FA Cup. Who cares? It's not the same as the Premier League. Premier League's a lot tougher, and guess what? He's been playing in the Premier League. He should get a chance. He should be the player that steps in, and now our defensive problems are starting to die down. He's not a mistake maker like Cahill is. Okay, he creates a little bit more going forward than Alonso does. Okay, well, there you go. I just don't understand why these issues are continuing to persist when we've got players that can replace the players that are making the mistakes. It's like today, obviously I'm not getting to the midfield quite yet, but Fabregas comes in for Matic because Matic had quite a horrible game against Burnley. So he comes in to replace Matic, does well. So I don't understand why we're not saying, okay, we've got players that can play in these positions. Zuma and Ake, Terry even, they can play in these two positions. Let's give them a chance because they're just as effective, if not more, because they don't make the mistakes. But we're not seeing that, so I would say that's my one biggest frustration as far as Conte is concerned. The other frustrations are more player-based, but as far as Conte goes, that's my biggest problem with him right now, is that he's not looking at these mistakes and saying, okay, these players need to either step up or they're going to be benched. It's more like they're just guaranteed a spot week in, week in, week out. So, I don't know. It's frustrating, but on to some other players. Moses had a pretty good game today, created a lot going forward. Did well getting back and helping out defensively as well. So all around, he did pretty well. Obviously, his mistakes, they are there as well, but they're in a position that isn't as dangerous to us, whereas Cahill and Alonso, they make mistakes in more key situations. So I think that's the biggest difference there. Into the middle, Fabregas and Conte. Like I said, I love seeing Fabregas in over Matic because I think he deserves the chance. I think he deserves the, I like, I guess just the ability to show what he can do and show that he can play in this formation. Show that he has the quality to play, and he did. I mean, honestly, he was our best player today. He controlled the midfield. He moved the ball around really well. He just did so much on the ball that whenever he was around it, whenever he was on the ball, it didn't matter what Swansea was doing because we had the ball. Whereas I think when you have Matic and Conte, yes, we're better defensively, but the other team has the ball quite a bit because Matic or Conte give the ball away. And so now, yes, their defensive work is better than Fabregas, but we don't really have to defend when Fabregas is on the field, if that makes sense. So I think he showed that today. I think he really did a lot. I mean, the goal was well deserved. Great pass into Pedro to score, or for him to score, so another assist for him. I think he's showing that he has the ability to play in this formation, and hopefully Conte sees that, because I'd love to see more of him, because he creates so much going forward for us. And honestly, those moments when we weren't creating chances were the moments where Fabregas wasn't really on the ball a whole lot. So Conte pretty much had another good game for him, just putting in challenges, stopping the other team from getting forward, stopping them from having a counterattack. It's just what he does so well, and he did it effectively again today. The front three, Hazard, good game. Pedro, same as usual, scores a goal, but the rest of the game really ineffective. And then Costa. Costa's the one that I think is the biggest problem we've had as far as not only creating chances, but finishing them as well. And what I mean by that is not that whenever he takes a chance he doesn't score. It's more like we do a good job of moving the ball around, of getting the ball forward, and then he gets on the ball and we lose it. Either that, or we're moving the ball around and then we look for an outlet, and where Costa from the first half of the season was popping into spaces and either opening up spaces for Hazard or he's in space himself and gets the ball, now it's stagnant Costa. He's standing and watching, or he's walking around. And it's not as good. It's not nearly as effective. And honestly, for a large part of the second half, there were moments where Swansea was just at us and at us and at us, because whenever we tried to get the ball out, Costa's not showing as an outlet. Costa's not there. Costa's not stepping in, forcing the defense to make a mistake, or winning the ball himself, because he's too busy walking. Because he's too busy just standing and waiting. He's on his heels while the defense are on their toes and ready to win it. So, yes, he scored a goal today, and yes, it was a good goal. But I still think he's just not as effective as he has been in the past. I think he was doing so much more the first half of the season, and I don't know if it was the talk of going to China. I don't know what happened, but something happened over the winter period to where now he's a much more stagnant player. He's not moving nearly as much, and it's hurting us. It's hurting us going forward. It's hurting us because we can't get out of our own back half of the field, and it's got to change. So that's got to change very soon, because if not, we're going to start dropping points because we're going to start tying games because we can't finish off attacks. We can't finish off these shots because Costa's not as effective anymore. So that's the biggest problem I had from him. Hopefully he steps up soon. Maybe, maybe not. But going into a bit more detail about Pedro and Hazard. Pedro, like I've said in the past, whenever he scores, it's like the rest of the game he's just very ineffective. And what I mean by that is not he's a terrible player or he's not a good player. There are moments where he does something really good, but then there are also those moments where he does something bad. He gives away the ball that stops our attack, or he gives away the ball and then doesn't win it back, or he tries to win it back and instead fouls the guy, which creates a chance for them. He just has these moments where it feels like... Sorry about that. It feels like he could be doing something better, or he could be creating a better chance, or something along those lines. He could be doing something that's not hurting us, but instead he makes those mistakes, and now all of a sudden they're on the counterattack, or now all of a sudden our attack, which was looking so good, is done. And I'm just like, Pedro, he's such a unique player in that respect, because I don't know if I've ever seen a player that has done so much good, but then has also done so much bad that it almost kind of cancels out. It's very interesting. Hazard today, though, going into a bit more detail about his play, I think he looks up for the game now. He looks up to play. I was concerned about it when he played against Wolves because he didn't look as effective. He didn't look as ready for the game. I think today he showed he's ready to play. I'm worried that it's those type of games where it's not at home, the crowd isn't at his back, and maybe it's not as big a team as some of the Premier League teams we play. I'm worried during those games that he's not going to be willing to step up. If he doesn't, that's where a lot of our attack will leave us, and that's why against Wolves we kind of struggled for a while to create anything. But I think when he's on his game like he was today, I think he shows he has enough quality to pretty much win us a game on his own. Even though he only had one assist today, it was for the third goal, I think just his movement with the ball, off the ball, it does so much to disrupt the defense that it helps us control the game, because they have to start bringing players back to the point where even when they do clear it out, now it's just straight to our defense because they've had to step people back to help out defensively. Because if they don't, they know Hazard's just going to run through like easily 3 players and find a shot. So I just appreciate the work that he puts in. I just wish he would do it for every single game and not have those games where he kind of fades out of the game. But that's all for the starting lineup. On to the subs. I would have liked to first of all see Ake on the bench. I don't know why he's not there. I don't know if it's just Conte wants Terry on the bench, or Conte wants to give Terry a chance to play. I don't know what it is, but the fact that Ake wasn't on the bench was kind of upsetting because I want to see him get a chance in. But as far as the subs go, I mean, not bad. Matic comes in to sort of shore up a bit more defensively, and honestly, when you bring him in and you bring Pedro off, it does sort of change the formation a little bit into more of a 5-3-2, where you've got, instead of 2 attacking mids and behind the striker, now Fabregas is still dropped deeper, and it's almost like Matic, Fabregas, and Conte are in the middle with Hazard and Costa up top. And honestly, I kind of like that, because not only does it give us more bodies in the midfield, but it also gives Hazard even more freedom to roam, where whenever you've got Pedro or Willian up there with him, it's almost like he has to sort of stay out of their way. Has to stay out of their side of the field. Whenever Fabregas is up there with him, though, and he drops deeper, it gives Hazard the entire field to run, and he just looks so much more comfortable with having all of that space, and he pops up on both sides instead of being more confined to one side. It's really effective, and I like that whenever we want to be maybe a bit more defensive but also still creating chances. It does that very well. Then the next 2 were Willian on for Hazard, which I don't mind. I'd like to see Willian get some more playing time. And, Hazard don't want to risk anything, risk him getting kicked or him getting injured. So I don't mind him having to come off. And then Zuma comes on for Moses, which effectively turns Azpilicueta into the right wing back and Zuma in the center. While I still think Azpilicueta is our best center defender, I think bringing Zuma in is a good move because we want to give him time. We want to get him back into the play. If not for anything else, then the fact that Cahill's making all these mistakes, I want Zuma in so that he can replace Cahill. However, I think I'm worried that he's going to want to move Azpilicueta out to the right and bring Zuma in for Moses, so where now it's Zuma, David Luiz, and Cahill with Azpilicueta and Alonso out left and right. That, in my opinion, would just really hurt us, because while Zuma's a great defender, Azpilicueta is our best defender. He is the one that wins those last-ditch challenges. He's the one that covers for everybody else whenever they're making mistakes. The only problem with him is he doesn't have the height to do it. So I think if they just worked more on making sure David Luiz is the one picking up that tall forward that's going to win the headers, I think we'd be a lot more effective. So I don't know. Maybe it's just my opinion. Maybe this is what Conte's wanted to do, wanted to have Azpilicueta out on the right the whole time. But I think that taking him out of the back 3 is a huge mistake. So I really hope that's not where it's going, but we'll see. As far as the rest of it, though, I mean, just overall, nothing to complain about with the referees. Aside from the little things on that one goal for Swansea, the referees had a fine game. You know, a couple one-sided calls here and there, but not nearly as bad as it has been in the past. And just as far as the team performance, I mean, we still dominated the game. It's just those moments where we're not creating enough chances or we're not finishing the chances because that last pass is a bad one or the cross is not good enough. Those moments need to stop popping up in our play because honestly, that's what could turn our title challenge into less of a runaway. You know, like right now we're 11 points ahead. Obviously, the rest of the teams still have yet to play, and you know, both Manchester clubs and Arsenal don't play this weekend, so they'll have a game at hand. But I'm just looking at it. We're 11 points ahead right now, possibly going to be 8 or 9, I think, depending on Tottenham and Liverpool. Right now, it's kind of a runaway. You know, like even if Man City wins their game at hand, that's 8 points we're ahead. That's 3 games they have to win, and 9 points we have to drop. The likelihood of that is not that high, but if we keep having games like this one, like the one against Burnley, where we're not as effective up top, there's less movement from Costa, there's not as much movement from, you know, Hazard and Pedro, the defense is making key mistakes that are giving away goals, it could turn it from an 8-point gap into more like a 3 or 4-point gap. And that's a lot more scary. That's, you know, one game or two ties in a row, then all of a sudden the title's out of our hands. So we need to make sure that we're not getting complacent, that we're not starting to lose our edge. Because I mean, you look at that 13-game winning run, just all of those games, complete domination. And aside from just domination of the game, it's like they wanted to continue on and score more. They wanted to 4-0 and 5-0 were 2 of our results. There were quite a few 3-0s as well, because we wanted to go forward and we wanted to score. We wanted to score more. We wanted to keep scoring goals, keep scoring goals. I look at today's game, it's like after the second goal, we were playing possession soccer. We were playing, okay, guys, we need to run out the clock. I don't want to see that from us. I want to see us eager to go score more, especially at home against Swansea, who have been conceding goals left and right, even though they've been looking better. We should want to go forward and score and score and score. After the third goal, it was like every single time the ball went out of play, it took us a minute to get the ball back into play. I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, we're dominating the game right now. We should want to go forward and score some more. We have a 2-goal cushion. The likelihood of them scoring 2 against us, not high. So why not give it a go? Why not just keep pushing and dominate the game even more? It's just like there's a little bit of a lack of desire there for that. So I don't know if that's the players, if it's the manager. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully that does look up a little bit. But we'll see, you know, going forward. I believe, what's our next game? I know our next game is a Premier League game. I can't remember who we're playing. And it's sad that I don't remember. I know. But give me a second. The internet's kind of full. We've got West Ham. It's going to be at West Ham on Monday, March 6th. So that's going to be next Monday. And honestly, you know, looking at West Ham play Watford today, they definitely do have some issues, but they've also got a lot of strength going forward. So we'll see what's going to happen. You know, Antonio is out with a suspension after today. Andy Carroll's out again with an injury, so they are going to be slightly weakened, but it's going to be at their stadium, which they beat us at earlier this season in the League Cup. So I'm hoping we can go there, get a good result, really not just a good result, but really a dominating performance to say, okay, we've had a few slip-ups, we've had some performances recently. I want this game to be like, it's against our West London rivals. Let's take it to them. Let's really take it to them and show them what we've got. Show them that we are not just the champions, but we are clearly the champions of England. So let's hope that's what we get. But until then, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this game? Who's your man of the match? Let me know. We can talk about it, discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you at the next one.